Happy Saturday, everybody. Nick Slavic here, proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. Also the host of Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my 2 decades of experience as a craftsperson and an entrepreneur to answer any questions. And this is a special show because we are here with our dear leader, Nick May, who put on Crank in Denver. This is Crank, and these are awesome contractors from all over the country, mainly Minnesota, evidently. And yeah, so we're going to do a group discussion. Chris Shank, everybody knows Muscles from Missouri down there. He is going to, he is emceeing this entire event. We're going to have a panel discussion with our dear leader, Nick May, the Elon Musk of the industry, Jason Paris, and me. I got to go back in here and do a quick demo of a product. I will be back out, and the rest of this discussion will be live on Ask a Painter. 5 minutes.
Bye, Nick.
See ya.
Okay, so
all right, everybody, thanks for following along. If you guys haven't seen the content this week, it has been amazing. This is an amazing group of people here. I've had the time of my life, and there's so many thoughts being exchanged here, and especially when you got dudes like Nick May, Jason Paris, Chris Shank. All the rest of these contractors are just amazing people. This is so fun, and I am commandeering Nick May's podcast studio. If you guys haven't seen this, we've been doing some lives here. We got the big monitor up. We got all the mics. I've shut myself in here. I'm going to go over some color tools and some color resources for you guys that I use in my business. So let's get to it because we got to get back out there for that group discussion. So in my business, there's some hurdles to people using me for painting the insides of their house. Number one is color. Color is huge. People want us to paint their house, but they're very nervous about color. So if you can help them with color, you're better off. Phil Klein, love to see you, man. So what I do is I make sure we have a process for getting people color. Also, there is cleaning up after ourselves, moving furniture. Those are big things too. Matt Varga, awesome to see you. So basically, I'm going to show you a couple resources from Sherwin. Sherwin is a huge resource to me that I use for my color stuff. There's some tools and some also human resources. So what I want to talk about is Color Snap. This little guy. This is a super handy tool that I use in my business. At a simple level, it's basically a color matching tool. It will, you can take a sample of something, match it, and, get some paint. It'll give you the closest Sherwin-Williams color to it. But it's also got some really cool features, too. You basically get, you got your smartphone, which is cool. You got the app. And this is really nice, cordless and all this other stuff. So you basically sync this guy to it. You calibrate it, so there's a little cap on the bottom that's got that white disc, which anybody who's ever used these, you got to calibrate it. So you stick that on there, you calibrate it. Once this thing's calibrated, you're good to match. So we can basically do, the simple thing that you can do with it is basically match. So let's see, connect our device. Initializing the sensor. All right, we're good to scan. So basically, we just set this guy down here. If we want to match this, oh, yeah, maybe we'll bring it up here. So, let's say we want to match, let's match Nick May's coffee cup here. And what comes up on your phone instantly is this, the closest colors. And it'll tell you how good the color match is, give you some options here, all the things you need. So this is a super easy way to match existing colors, come up with color schemes. If you're on like a historic restoration, which I use these, and there's 8 or 9 colors, you can go around the house, just start clicking, and it'll basically give you a folder full of colors that you can use for this. So another cool thing is actually comparing. So if you have a can of paint and you want to see if it's actually the right color, you can take the color card from Sherwin-Williams and take the paint, and you basically do 2 scans here. So we'll just do a simple double scan. We'll scan this black keyboard thing here. We'll scan the other side, and it gives us 2 scanned samples, and it'll basically tell us if they're close or not, and how much change is in there. So that's a very cool thing. Another feature too is you can actually create a folder and save all these colors in it. So I saved the exterior colors of my house. We have a siding and trim color. You can basically go up there, match the color, label it, match the trim, label it, and then what's cool is you can just share it. A little button in the corner here, and you can send it. You can, I use Gmail. You can send it to your designer, send it to your homeowner, and then they basically have access to all that stuff that you do too. So super handy tool. My production manager uses one of these. That's a very valuable tool. in real world experience, one of the biggest ways that I found that something like this saves me money is we're on the last day of a project. Client wants one other room painted. It's a red bathroom, and she has no record of the paint. And my guys are half an hour away from the paint store, and what they could do is cut out a piece of the wall, run it to the paint store, get it matched, get the gallon of paint, bring it back and do the wall. But they had one of these on site with production manager Holly. They scan the wall, they instantly get the readout, they email our Sherwin-Williams, and within the hour paint is delivered. My painters don't stop moving. So you can imagine the cost of taking your painter off-site, stopping production, cutting a piece of a wall out, which now you have to patch, driving a half an hour, standing there while the paint's being matched, verify the match, drive back, patch the wall, and then keep painting. So these things are insanely valuable for stuff like that, just logistically. Another thing I want to talk about is Sherwin-Williams has this awesome resource that I use for my company where they basically help you out with design services. For $95, give or take, I know this varies regionally, Sherwin-Williams can connect your clients with a design professional that will give them a 90-minute consult, and they'll help them with colors, they'll help them with finishes. They'll actually give them like basically a checklist on the project and a shopping list. This paint, this color, this finish, and it's super easy, it's organized, it's a beautiful system like that. And we had good experience because we're going through so many jobs right now. I used to do all the color consults, and I did hundreds of them a year. I've trained production manager Holly to do it. We also have now this design resource. When we get too busy, Holly and I just get back to work, and then we contact our design resource and get those done. And we've had great success with it. All of our clients have spoken very highly of the trust and the actual content that the people gave them. So it's a wonderful process. It's a wonderful resource. Also, an interesting thing is their client actually gets a $50 gift card to Sherwin-Williams with the design consult to put towards paint, and they also get a free sample of paint too, which is really cool. So these are two great resources. Remember, your client's biggest hurdle is color. They're very worried about it. We live deeply in it. We know and understand it. And but our clients don't, and we have to gain their trust by getting them the right colors. Tools like that and resources like that will do it. So thank you to Sherwin for underwriting the show today. Thank you for Purdy for being a great partner, and we're going to get back out here and do the group discussion now. They're waiting on us. So, and we'll take any of your questions too as we get into this.
All sorts of different things, just gathering stuff from everywhere, which made it complicated. And then they driving around, to each store, and yeah. And even some jobs were a combination of two manufacturers. Yeah. So I made things complicated.
It probably, and again, this is me looking on, so with fresh eyes. I know that you have to kind of complicate some things or complexify to expand your repertoire, try new things, see if there's another path available that you can take advantage of, but then to continually simplify, complexify, simplify, to make sure you don't have kind of traces of the old that's not being used anymore, the leftovers from some old system. I'm guessing that's kind of a pulse that you keep going through that. Okay. Yeah, bring it back in now.
That actually prompts a question that I was wondering about. Slavic and May, you guys both are like die hard. You stick to, I think Slavic said 4 products total that you use, and I know that you live by Benjamin Moore. I'm sure, like everybody else, you come in contact with clients who are like die hard Sherwin-Williams folks, and they want their cabinet system to be with Extreme Bond and Pro Classic. To which do you just say no? We don't do that. This is our system. Have you ever had that become such a point of contention that they don't use you?
No, I don't think it has. Most people I find don't know much about product, and that's what the market, that's what the industry is really telling us right now. That's why the manufacturers, Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, are so focused on the contractor right now because they know the contractor makes the decision. We start. I would say maybe 10% maybe of my customers, when I start talking about the products that we use, they go, oh yeah, I know Advance. So it's very little.
Okay.
And definitely nobody's like, oh, I really want you to use this or that. So that hasn't come up.
A wise person told me one of the smartest, most trust-getting thing you can say to a client, which is, I have a process to make you very happy. follow my process, the statistical probability of your happiness will drop with each thing you decide to change.
Right then.
I think we're always afraid of making the customer mad, and it goes back to saying no. And I mean, think about it. You go to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant tonight. If you brought in your own meat or said, "No, I want you to go to a different vendor and go get, vegetables from this," like they're gonna laugh at you, right? So we have to know our products. We have to know what we're working with, and I think it's okay to stick to our guns.
Okay, so we're gonna ask questions to these guys. I mean, really grill them. Really give them a hard time. Don't let them get away with anything. I always say
Question everything.
Keep
First
question
principle
everything.
reasoning.
Keep them honest, but really, keep breaking it down to where this stuff works when you actually get back to your company. Get away from the high ideals. Get down to the nitty gritty. So that's what we're gonna try to do. I'm gonna pass this mic around. I'm gonna walk it around because I know that we're trying to record this too. And then, do you want me to look for the questions that come up on the screen, or?
You can or you can't. I'd rather take questions from the room
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
So, and it's just questions
If
about
somebody's
anything, right?
watching the show and sees a question, you can shout it out too, if somebody has a pressing one.
Yeah. We've never done this before at Crank, but I thought since there's the three of us, I thought it would be kind of fun. Yeah, my view is that we each run very different businesses. What I love about what we do here is that there's no one right way to, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, you don't do it exactly like me, you don't do it exactly like Jason. And so we all have our different perspectives and reasons why we do things slightly different. I think some of the core things that we do are the same. You've got to have systems. We got to market our business, and then from there, it's different ways.
Okay, so questions. All right, I'm gonna pass this around.
So I think a lot of people after today are going to start, maybe go back to their company and realize that maybe they're going to make some changes. So if someone wants to come, has an idea of making some major changes and has to go explain that to their guys, any of you guys have to get to that realization that I'm going to make a major change, it's going to affect all my guys, whether it's the way I pay them, showing them that maybe the way that we're going to change may benefit you if you're willing to work a little bit harder, meaning you're not going to be an hourly guy, you're going to be, per project or, so have you ever had to go through that with your guys and explain, kind of maybe tell us how that went or what that experience was like?
That was this year for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It's what are you going to change and what's their personality type. The two data points I can give you would be, when you saw the two red dots, Joe and Eric, my two employees who were on the red side of that disc profile, completely overhauled our SOP. They've only been painters for 3 months with me. They came back the next summer. I handed them the SOP, worked perfect. People on that end of it, they're adaptable. They actually look forward to it. My people on the other end, a lot of nervousness, and you had to do a lot more coaching and mentoring. So, yeah. And then you guys heard about the positive and negative incentives. So, it's people respond to that stuff.
Well, the
all
reverse to
differently.
change is going to probably be the most familiar thing that people will experience is that telling your guys that something's going to change is just going to agitate them.
Well, and I do know that there's a point where surface level numbers and the easy numbers, like assigning an amount of hours to a job, is an easy thing to understand. It took them maybe 3 months to feel what that budget felt like on a job. If you start going past any of those numbers, you have to be patient that everybody can absorb them because we go deep with these numbers, and you have to be very patient that when you lay out this simple piece rate system to us, that is very complex, and sometimes they can attach a feeling to it.
When I made the change, I don't know how many years ago now, feels like forever ago, we had significant fallout. I had, one of the problems I had was I had a guy that had been with me for 5 years, was an amazing painter, but every year he was looking for more money per hour. And just because you breathe doesn't mean that you should earn more money. And he quit. And I thought, and I think he thought too, like, oh no, what's going to happen to Walls by Design? And one of the things I learned, I started to learn back then. I think it's been a process for me to really get my head and hands and heart around it. Is that I have a belief that everybody will leave my company. It's a matter of if, or it's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when and how. And so what that makes me understand is I have to have that redundancy piece, and I can't rely too much on one person, because at the end of the day, I'm the only one that's going to be standing. And so he didn't like this system because it was not guaranteed that he would get $25 an hour anymore. Now he had, and I know this, he had the capacity to make probably $35 an hour, because I've seen it over and over and over since then. But like I said yesterday, on the average, we saw our guys make 20% more when we moved to our system, and it wasn't clean and tidy and all wrapped up with a bow. I mean, it was a process over some probably some months, and but when we got everybody on board, and it took a while for people to really understand it, and but now my guys love it. Yeah. But it's a process.
Good question here.
Gentlemen. Mr. Paris, this is a bit focused to you, but I know Nick's can jump in on this as well. I'm just so impressed by...
It's the Nick sandwich right here.
I'm so impressed by the rate and scale of your growth in the company. And early on, I started chasing revenue, and I quickly learned that's not the right number to go after in total. But I'm curious, in scaling, I'm assuming a lot of it comes down to focus and redundancy and systems. But there's also something behind that, I would imagine, as well. Maybe a mission or, a really deep why. Can you speak to those two pieces? Like, what's driving you, and what is really allowing that level of growth to go? And in my context, I grew quickly, and then I just hit a threshold, like the 1.2 revenue threshold, and I'm stuck. And I've got some pieces out of this weekend to move through it, and it seems like you've just blown through those thresholds, and so I'm curious on that.
Yep. So growing fast is painful. So high pain tolerance, and because each year you kind of go through different cycles of business, and I've never been really prepared for the next cycle. You kind of hit it, and you're in it, and you're faced with all the challenges that come from that, and you're just gritting yourself through it. So you're kind of building the airplane while it's taking off, right? So you're not like, oh, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Once I'll sit down, build the airplane, and this is gonna take 2 weeks to come in. That's fine. We'll wait 2 weeks for the propeller. Like you're going, like you're on the runway going, like, where's the propeller? Let's get it. Let's go. So yeah, growing fast, high pain tolerance. Again, knowing what you want in the business, right? So there's a certain amount of revenue that's needed to carry an infrastructure that's required to bring it to a mature asset, and that's kind of been a focus of mine. Is to first I thought I just wanted to have a job that I wanted to have. I needed to have that. I needed certain infrastructure in place, so I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to manage projects. Just want to sit in the office and play the video game of painting logistics. And now, but there's more roles than that even, and so now I want to become a mature asset, continue to build those. So the why is to build assets in my 30s in the trades, and to help people.
He still might be burned.
Are you guys others gonna answer that, or is it just for Jason or what?
I thought it was just for Jason.
Oh, okay.
It was just kind of
Okay, no thoughts on it? This mic is this still working?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Very well.
Anybody,
I've
other
got
questions?
one for
Yeah.
Jason. Yesterday you said that you have not given a single estimate this entire year.
Correct.
Was that a decision that was made based off of volume that you were doing because you were needed in other parts of the business? Was there a revenue number that you felt qualified you to remove yourself from that circumstance? or did it just happen organically because you didn't have enough time in the day
Yeah,
to go
I
drive
think some
around?
great things have come from aligning my team on incentives. So I was kicked out from doing bids because I'm too nice. I'm a people pleaser. So I did some bids last year, but we have the sales staff to do all the bids that are needed. And so I was kind of fired by my president and my production manager. So like we've changed the way we do estimates so fast, I didn't really keep up. And so my production manager's like, well, you didn't, check this box for a Loxon upgrade. I'm like, what? Let's just do it. And so he's like, maybe Jason shouldn't do bids anymore. And then Alex was like, maybe you shouldn't do bids anymore either. We looked at the margin of some of my jobs. So that, and then the other thing was like, so that's why. So the why was the team decided that, or I aligned the team's incentives to fire me, right? Because that's what I want in the business. And we did that also through client escalations. So I've dealt with one client escalation this year, and I did that, and then I just gave them their money back. And so now my team doesn't have me go to those anymore because my production manager is incentivized on margin. So he knows if it gets to me, it's gonna really hurt his margin. And so we did. It was like in March, and I was like, yeah, I guess we didn't. The salesperson probably overpromised. We didn't quite know what we were doing. Like, let's give you your money back. And then Mark was like, what the heck? I'm like, I just give them their money back. But anyways, now they don't come to me anymore. So, I think the answer to that would be, again, deciding what you want, right? So I don't like doing bid. I'm somewhat good at it, like in the moment, because I can put on an act and be high energy for a short amount of time. But you can probably guess my personality is I'm not a salesperson. So I don't like doing it, and so aligning the team to say, it's probably in your all best interest that I don't do this.
Gotcha.
It's awesome to hear that you got fired because I got fired on my birthday one year from project management by my team.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you're done.
Which is great. It's
Yeah.
great that they take ownership.
It's wonderful when your team gets to that point. I remember getting fired off with paint jobs too, because it was back in the day when I was trying to paint and manage and sell and do all of those things. And I would show up to the job site and I would paint for like 20 minutes and then the phone would ring and I would walk around the house kind of on the phone, and then I would realize I had to go off to an appointment, and then I would leave and I would just say, can you guys clean that up? And they're
Just don't
one
come
too
anymore.
many times
Yeah.
they're just like, nope, you just need to not be here anymore. Just go do your thing. And that's pretty awesome
Yeah.
when that starts to happen.
And it happens in different stages, right? So there's probably the first one is you're out there painting with the guys. Like, you know what? It's probably gonna be best if you're not here, right? With a mature team, and when you're actually providing value outside of you being there.
Yeah.
And then it happens with production management and sales.
I don't know if you guys heard it yesterday, but when John was talking about he was gone for a month, he said his business ran better when he was gone than when he was in it. That's the E-Myth dream, right? Like the E-Myth is, he talks about that. I remember listening to, I didn't read that book. I listened to that book 12 times. And to hear him say, when you can leave your business and it's better off when you come back because you're gone, then you know you've built the systems right.
It's a mature asset at that point.
Who's all read the E-Myth here or listened to it or something like that? Most everybody, okay.
Who is not?
Is there a way to, like, what are some of the key points? I hear it all the time. You guys just want to rattle those off? Like, what do you learn from the E-Myth?
It really just drives home the importance of building systems and redundancy. Like in a nutshell, it's pretty easily summed up. by
It's
that.
told through a story, so it's not,
Oh.
I like reading books like that. I'm not super academic like somebody up here or some people up here. And so it's a fun story. It's an easy story to follow. It's a complicated business that they're following, and I just loved it. The moment I read it, I couldn't get enough. And so the great thing about painting is you can listen to whatever, and I just kept listening and kept listening. The frustration for me was that I still couldn't figure out how to put those pieces in place, and then I ended up hiring somebody to build the processes for me, to write them down, and that's what we use today. It's been tweaked, but that's how we got it done.
think the main message for painters is the myth that that a great technician is a great business owner, and that's probably not prevalent anymore anywhere else in the painting industry, in residential repaint especially. So it's that myth that what made you a great technician is, and carry over to be a business owner is probably one of the main points from the story format that comes through.
Other questions?
Meg,
There you go.
you just mentioned you outs. Not working.
It is working.
Okay.
Just get up on
You
it.
just mentioned you.
So keep using it, it's
Keep
fine.
using it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're recording
I
this.
can't hear it, but I guess
That's
everyone
right.
else can. You just mentioned you outsourced the process writing at that stage. Could you describe that? What did that look like?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. My wife and I were up in Breckenridge, Colorado, hanging out with friends at their condo. We're having dinner and playing cards and all this stuff. And Jamie tells me, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting this business. I used to be a process person for Anderson Consulting." And she says, "Do you think there's room, or do you think people would want someone to help them write processes?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're hired. Like, I'll be your first client." And so literally over the next 6 to 8 months, we kept meeting, and how we built the processes were, first she would sit with me and I would tell her how it's supposed to be done. Then she would go meet with my team and go, "Is this the way it's getting done?" And so we would marry that. And then she also, we gave her like a half a dozen of our clients to go talk to and ask, how'd the process go? What was good? What was bad? How could we do better? And so we really tried to identify problem points. That's what we continue to do with process. Anytime we have a process or a pain point that happens more than once, we go, all right, we got to change the process. This has happened twice now. And so, so over the course of, like I said, 6 to 8 months, we wrote the policy manual down and got everything on paper. And so it was awesome, but it was not inexpensive, and it took a lot of time. I mean, lots of Panera meetings and going back over it, reading it, rewriting it, all that kind of stuff.
But a good ROI. The expenses, who cares, because you got a return on it.
Huge, yeah.
Was that a similar process for you guys?
You want to talk through your process?
Yeah, everything I do is bootstrapped. I tractioned my business within like 2 weeks by myself. All my processes went down on paper in a matter of 3 hours. Because we know what we're doing. All you do is open up a Google Word document and hit the numbering bullet thing. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's as simple as it is. And then they get a little more complex when I take my Word document and turn it into that checklist. All it is a step 1 through 20. That's it. And we all know what we're doing. There's no question how to paint the walls in a bedroom. 21 steps. Just put them down. That's as simple as it is. So.
You're going to ask something, Mr. Minnesota fellow painter?
I was gonna ask the same question,
Okay.
so you didn't answer.
So systems? How we build
How did
them.
you develop them? Did you do it yourself?
Yep, so I started, because owner-operator, you start doing everything yourself. And then you ask someone if they could do something, but they don't have the intuition or recall that you have. So you have to take everything that's intuition, turn into a process, and anything that's recall, and turn into reference. And so that's been like the mantra over the past couple of years is this intuition? Okay, how do we turn that into a process? Is this recall? How do we turn that into reference? So we've done that through, it's kind of the same thing. You take someone, they sit with me, how do you do it, blah, blah, and then they talk, and then they kind of, some people are just better skilled at having the mind to detail that out, or have the space even to detail that out. Sometimes it's hard as a business owner to get up 10,000 square feet, but at the same time deal with all the weeds on the ground level. That's a challenging dynamic to have. And then we use I don't know if it's an app or a web app called Confluence. It's kind of like a wiki format. So the people on the team it's like a wiki page, right? People, Wikipedia. It's like an internet website.
I know. I was thinking Transformers Wiki. Wasn't that
Yeah.
Wiki?
Um,
Wiki?
I don't consume pop culture. So it's like Wikipedia, so like the team can edit it, and then it's like web-based, and then like you have the kind of the
That's what
editors.
you use for process.
Yes, that's what we use for process. Yep. I ramble sometimes, so just when like if I'm rambling, just say you answered the question. Just not.
Yeah, I think I started what they're talking about. I probably started it, 30 times, and I would never get it over the goal line. And I'm a little ADD, and I'm much better at delegating than sometimes the details. I'm bigger at the bigger picture.
I think that's a go
Are you
ahead.
constantly adjusting them, or I mean, I suppose once the process of actual painting
We
is
only
pretty
adjust it
similar.
when there's a problem. Or somebody comes to us, like I said, we talked about this yesterday. If someone comes to me and says, hey, we do it this way, but I think there's a better way to do it. All right, let's have a conversation. Why do you think that? And then we've either tried it already. I mean, in 20 years, I've tried a lot of things. And we just say, this is why that won't work. Or we go, hey, let's give it a test. Let's see. And but for the most part, our systems are pretty solid, especially in the office and everything that's really controlled here.
Adjusting process, I think you want to take the feedback, but then also filter up to someone that has perspective of the whole system, right? So you say, I want to change this process because it's painful for me. Like, yes, I validate that pain. However, this little amount of pain here solves a larger pain over here. So like compliance, like I don't really want to write the PO number down for material purchases. It's like harder than just me making something up, like the street name or the color of the house or how I describe the house, and then but they're like, okay, I can understand how that's harder for you. And I want to validate that, but I'm the architect of the system, and we're not going to adjust that. So there's a balance between taking the feedback and also filtering the feedback in the context of the whole system.
Yeah, you don't want to just shut them down and so they don't feel like they've been heard. But you want to also help them understand why don't we do it that way, right?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of that this year, which is I get a lot of suggestions from my craftspeople, and I say that makes sense, but statistically, if everybody followed my way the entire year, we would overall be better off. And I know you want to do your own system, but that's again the 10,000 foot level. We have to look out for everything. So when something does go wrong on a job, we can pinpoint right exactly where on that standard that it didn't get meet. And if I have 10 different standards going, now I have 10 different documents to reference. Which crew has which standard and which went wrong?
Yeah, you don't want to have a lot of sometimes we have to do it that way.
Yeah, exceptions are really hard in maintaining a process because now you're evaluating if the process is valid at each step.
Gentlemen, let's make this less about you, more about me. Now we have 6 minutes left till 10 if you want to stay on schedule for sales process.
Yep.
Do you want to close with another question or call it and take a little break?
Take one more question.
One more. You? Okay.
So it's kind of for all of you guys. You guys all started out doing this by yourselves, and then you guys acquired a crew afterwards. How did you guys let go of that micromanaging control of trusting somebody to take this and run with it, and they're making the better choice? Like, how did your employees get you to relinquish that control?
So we had a great conversation last night with a bunch of people about this, whereas the perspective is, on a scale of 1 to 100, most of us can produce a 98 for our clients. Nobody's perfect, but we can do the most amazing job really quick. My people were doing an 85, and I was willing to light my company on fire, fire everybody because they weren't doing 98. The perspective I gained was my clients only wanted a 75. And we were still performing 10 points higher than their expectations. They were just 14 points lower than my personal expectations. And that's good perspective to have. I think I even told Nick May this too.
I was just going to say, you and I had a conversation.
Yeah, and I had heard, and I attribute this to Nick May, which is if you can hire somebody who can do 80% effectiveness of what you can, that's a success. And as long as you're maintaining that 10-point bump over what the clients want, that to me is a win. If you want to play this game,
And I would add, I think any decision you make, you just want to make a good decision. So what I mean by that is you want to weigh the benefits, right? So you want to hire somebody and have them now do a task that you're doing, what is the cost of that, right? And it might be, right, there's gonna be a learning curve, there'll be these challenges, what are the costs of those challenges that you'll incur? That's one of the beautiful things about painting, I think, of an entrepreneurial sandbox, is that it's very forgiving, right? You can make mistakes, you just paint it again. It's not like we're in the business of setting foundations for homes and, you know, if something happens wrong and people die. So you weigh the cost, but then weigh the benefit, right? So you just want to make a good decision. If the benefit outweighs the cost, do it. If the cost is going to outweigh the benefit, and that can also be like a personal value system, right? How much personal value do I put on the cost of this decision versus how much personal value do I put on the benefit? And so it depends on what your personal values are, I guess.
First of all, I would say I never was the only guy. From day one, I had employees, 100%. I'm a good delegator. I think it drives my wife crazy because I want to delegate everything at the house, and I don't like to clean dishes. I don't, I'm like, who can do this, and who can, and to be honest, when I run into people around the country, I constantly hear, how do you get so much done? Like, you are everywhere, you're doing all these different things, and it's simple. I have team. I love building team. I love finding people that have their little niche. This guy over here sits and listens to audio hour after hour after hour, and loves doing that, and that drives me absolutely freaking insane. And we have, people that answer phones that have all the details and love the checklists. Like, the reason I get fired from being project manager and even being a salesperson, I'm still doing it a little bit, but is because I'm much better up creating the systems. I'm not fantastic doing the systems. Like, I'm like him. Like, I want to please people, and I want to, take the least resistance and keep moving forward. And it's like, oh, I forgot those 4 things on the checklist. Sorry, guys. And so I'm always constantly apologizing to my team in the office if they send me out. So it's just a skill set for me. My wife's the opposite. She's not a delegator. She'd rather just do it. She'll do it much better than I can. But that's just who I am. And so that's why delegation, it kind of drives me crazy when I'm talking to somebody like, well, nobody can do it as good as I can, and they don't want to hire it. And I'm like, you're crazy, But I've learned over and over and over, even when I hire people like that guy to do marketing stuff, which I always felt like I was the guy. I'm the marketer. People have told me I'm the marketer, but when he's focusing on it every day, because I got a million other things, I've got to look at all of these things, So that's, hopefully I answered that question.
You did. Thank you.
Okay, you want to call it? Take a 10-minute break?
Yep.
And then we'll see sales process with Nick.
All right. You guys can take your chairs.
I just wanted to be on the
Okay, you made it.